It's brown is not a color in a game that should ever be used heavily.
Who tiles their city like that?
Yeah, it's used a lot actually. Like even in the dungeon.
It
Like
feels like it's like an industrial complex. Like a dirty dock society.
Yeah.
You can nearly smell it through the GBA screen. Does that qualify as presentation? I don't like it.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
Welcome to the Cable Club. We're a retro video gaming podcast where three guys craft as many weapons as we can. And we're linking up to talk about the games we love. We're your hosts. I'm Steve.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Don.
And this is episode number 12, The Cable Club. This week's episode is one of our random encounters, and the game picked from the Retro Decks randomly was Summon Night Swordcraft Story. So, get ready to upload data from us to you. But first, we have a couple announcements. Don, do you want to go over the announcements?
You want me to go over the announcements?
Yeah, you can go over the announcements.
Is that because you didn't read them before we started?
No.
Is that it? Okay.
Fine, I'll do them. I'll do them.
All right.
First of all... No. You can stop now. That's not nice. Everybody, we hit our 50 subscriber goal on YouTube.
Woo!
So... we're going to be filming a bonus episode. Are we going to announce it, or is it going to be a surprise when we release it? I don't know if we talked about that.
I think it's... Well, I mean, we've already teased it, so if you don't know, I guess it's still going to be a surprise to you.
So you want me to reveal it on this?
No. That's what I just said. It's still going to be a surprise.
Okay, fine. I hope you're all ready for the surprise, because it's a cool one.
It is.
Just so everybody's aware, our Discord is now live, so you'll be able to find the link in the description on the video on YouTube.
Exciting.
Yeah, so this is kind of why we're doing it. We want to build this community of people who want to talk about, trade, and play games together. Could be games in general, even though we obviously have a retro game tilt. It's what we have time for. But, this is the real goal, to get more folks together to play games. As adults with no time.
Yeah, I need to get back into Final Fantasy XIV raiding, and I need some actual good players. Dan and I do. It's just a slog. It's really hard. So we need some people that play games, man.
For sure.
And the last announcement that we had is we're going to be opening up another listener pool. So send us reviews. Or not reviews, I'm sorry. Send us some suggestions, and we'll throw it into a list to randomize for our next Victory Road. We look forward to hearing from you guys and seeing what you guys want us to play.
Yeah, go ahead and submit your games anywhere. You can submit them in the comments here. You can travel over to Discord. That'd be the preferred thing to do. Go over to Discord, put them in the Game of the Week channel, because there's now a channel for that specifically. If you submitted a game last time and it didn't get picked, you can absolutely submit the same game again if you really want to see an episode on it. If you really, really want to see an episode on it, go get some other people to team up with you and also vote for the same game, because we count duplicates as additional votes. So if you had 10 games and 3 of them were Grand Theft Auto 4, then Grand Theft Auto 4 has a 30% chance of being the next game we play, for example.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what you guys want to submit. The last one that we got was Conker's Bad Fur Day, and that was excellent.
That was a fun episode.
Yeah, come on. To make fun of it, but yeah, it was something that I had been meaning to play, even though I wasn't sure that it was something I was going to personally enjoy. But definitely, it's still a must play, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you want to go check out that episode, that's on our YouTube channel, but also on any other podcast platform. You can go check out our whole backlog there if this is your first time here.
Yeah, you'll have this episode and 11 others. So we've covered a lot of genres, but not all of them yet. So there's a good variety of content. If there's a certain type of genre you prefer, or
yeah, I don't think we have a duplicate on there. Do we have a duplicate? If unless you count Metroid Prime as a Metroidvania, which I'm not sure about.
But it's in first person though, so I mean, I guess it has that going for it.
Yeah, it's like an FPS. We haven't played a shooter other than that, like a first-person shooter. So
yeah,
I mean, really, it's an adventure game, but I mean,
we'll hit all of them eventually.
Yeah, we got everything. That being said, we still have plenty of room on our RetroDex if anybody wants to submit games for the RetroDex as well. You can send us any game 20 years or older on any platform, console, whatever, and we'll put it on our RetroDex, and it could get randomly selected on our Random Encounter episodes as well.
In fact, all previous submissions for the last poll have been added to the RetroDex if they weren't there already.
Right.
So,
any other announcements that you guys wanted to bring up?
Nah.
No?
Don't think so.
All right, then I guess we'll hand it over to Dan for Question of the Week. After I say that if you'd like to skip the Question of the Week or the news talk, you can use the slider on any of the platforms, or you can use the timestamps below on our YouTube. Now I'll pass the torch over to Dan.
These intros are a little bit of fun, where we can kind of get to know you, then you can get to know us a little bit. But,
for sure.
If you want to skip it, go ahead. Go ahead if you want to get right into Summon Night.
Fine.
You'll be just fine. We're not judging you. Skippers.
Not at all. All right. So
I'm going to add a Skippers channel to Discord.
Question of the week. In the spirit of Easter, confess your gaming sins. 3 of them. All right. So I got a couple of good ones here.
Bless me, for I have sinned.
All right,
child, confess your sins. By the way, I'm not religious in any sense at all.
All right. Well, back in my day, I used to play a fair amount of MMOs, and one of the biggest sins you could ever do in a MMO is actually buying in-game currency from like a website. So I mean, I haven't done it a lot, but there was a time in when I used to play Final Fantasy XI with Steve. There was times where I bought it like once or twice, and I don't typically do it a lot at all because it's like it can be pretty shady. So, but that's one of my sins there. The next one's kind of funny too. If anyone has actually played the online StarCraft for StarCraft 1, there's this mode where you can join a lobby and you see like a bunch of games that say like 7 vs 1 comp stomp, and basically what that means is
comp stomp.
Comp stomp,
comp stomp, yeah.
Like
so
computer stomp.
Yeah, so 7 players will go against one computer and just basically obliterate that one computer, and it's just to basically fluff your win rate on your record. And so in this mode, you could actually there's an allegiance button.
That's like getting in a fight with all your friends and beating up on one guy and going, "Yeah, I'm undefeated."
Yeah, pretty much is what it is.
Wow.
But anyway, in this mode, there's an allegiance button where you can actually unalign yourself with your allies, and your allies can't tell or know that you did that. So basically, when you beat the computer, the game ends, and obviously your record goes up. But if But if, yeah, unless somebody unaligns from the whole, like all the 7 players, the game doesn't end because now the game thinks there's still an enemy out on the field, and this would always cause all sorts of drama in like the in-game chat, where they'd be like, "Who's BSing?" Blah blah blah, and me and this friend Leahy, shout out to Leahy, we would do this all the time as kids, and we would always like try and like pretend that it wasn't us. It's like, no, dude, it's not us. I really think it's this orange guy. And then, and everyone gangs up on this orange guy who was just innocent. And then after,
So
like,
basically, you guys invented Among Us before, or I guess the players of StarCraft did, because I don't think this was originally you, but that was
No.
Among Us before Among Us was made.
pretty much, yeah, it's hilarious. But a lot of the times we'd get through like 2 or 3 players, killed before we like click the button again to realign us, and then the game would just end.
So all you did was prevent some people from winning the match and fluffing their rating.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know what I've unleashed with this question. Oh boy.
Okay. And then the last one I have is it's called save scumming. I mean, a lot of people probably know what this term is, but it's like useful, I guess you could say, for like the Baldur's Gate series, because you can literally save it like anywhere, like even like while you're in chat with like an NPC. So basically, when you have like dialogue and you have like 5 different options, you can literally like save it right before you choose an answer, and then like you can pick whatever answer you want, and then if obviously that NPC didn't like that answer, you could just reload right before that particular question, and then you could keep going until you get the right one.
Slay the Spire has that too. You can save scum fights and choices.
Okay, well, doing it in Slay the Spire is definitely a sin. But, like, listen, there are plenty of games where choices matter, and those games tend to be really long. Are you telling me that the only, like, legit, honorable way to do it is to go have multiple playthroughs of, like, a 100-hour game to see everything?
I mean, like the hardcore players, like they don't like people doing that. They think it ruins the experience. It's because they feel like
That's
whatever
not their
you pick.
experience to be
You're
ruined.
not a hardcore player if you're sitting there playing a 100-hour RPG 5 times. You're not a hardcore gamer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like I don't want to play the game like a million times, so that's why I save scum. Just
speaking as a guy who's played Pokemon, the first gen, like, I don't know. I can't even count how many times. I'm not a pro player. Anything. You're not a pro player by playing through the same RPG like 100 times to see all the other choices. You're not.
Yeah,
just save.
I really like will replay a game like soon after I beat it. Like usually once I beat it, I move on.
Yeah, me too.
So, but yeah, I mean those were my 3 choices.
Dan, how about selling your character and then character retrieving through the character? What is it? In 11,
Basically,
didn't you end up selling Rosaire and then using character restoration to
No,
get the
no, that wasn't
back?
that wasn't me. No, that wasn't me. That was one of our other friends that did that.
Oh.
After the first 2 sins, Dan, I was thinking no forgiveness for you, but you know what? After the third one, it's okay. You're actually an okay guy. It's all right. just five Hail Marys, and we're good.
All right, what about you guys?
You want to go, Don?
If you really want me to. All right. So I'd say my first one is pretty benign, but microtransactions definitely got me pretty bad for a little while. Hearthstone. Yeah. If I'm pretty sure everybody knows what it is. But for a period of my life, I spent I know of $240 a year playing Hearthstone. But that doesn't count all the like random like packages and extra giveaways and stuff that they would do throughout the year. So I'm pretty sure I cleared over $300 a year.
Well,
one game.
It's crazy how like those free to play games like get you.
Spent way more on Magic than that.
True. I still maintain digital card games are cheaper. Fight me. All right. So the next one, I have never played Chrono Trigger.
gonna have to get on that.
I'm making a retro gaming podcast right now, and I've never played like what many people would argue is the best game ever made.
You heard him, folks. Everybody needs to submit Chrono Trigger for our next Victory Road episode.
Worse, I don't even have it in my backlog to play.
Wow.
Like, it's not even on the list. It's terrible.
Well, to be fair for me, like I haven't beat Chrono Trigger since like 8th grade. So that was like what, 20 years ago, something like that.
I finished.
So
Chrono
I could play
Trigger,
it too, to be honest with you.
The last time I played it and beat it was on the DS, and it was in 2015. So it's been a minute, but it was still, within the last 10 years. I have beat it.
I'm hoping the last one is definitely going to get you guys riled. All right. I, in 2006, enjoyed playing Sonic the Hedgehog 06 for Xbox 360.
I've never played it.
I haven't either.
I mean, its reputation at the very least.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was definitely very bad.
Well, I kind of fell flat. All right, Steve.
Maybe it's for the best.
So my first one is cannon rushing in StarCraft. You hide a probe in a little dark area inside the base of an opponent, and you start building pylons, which power up your buildings, and you just start building cannons, which are incredibly difficult for early game units to defeat. It's one of the highest forms of cheese, and it's fun, and it's very bad.
Oh, you know what? That actually reminds me. Remember, I've never been good at StarCraft. Terrible. But one time, I think I was playing against you, Dan, and like I had found this strategy, and like you would go around and you'd kill all my workers. But like the third game we played, I did. I think they called it like factory cheese, where like basically, I was Terran. You like run off into a remote corner of the map that's closer to your opponent's base, and if they don't scout appropriately, what you do is you speed set up a factory, and you build like I forget what the biggest Terran like mech is. It's like a big giant walking mech.
Oh, I think it's called Thor or something.
Yeah, Thor.
Hmm.
So you get yourself a Thor, and it's only like 7 minutes into the game or something like that. Like nothing is beating Thor, and you surround it with SCVs. Like you basically take all the SCVs from your base when the opponent attacks, and you surround the Thor, and then you just storm the other person's base with the Thor and the SCVs repairing the Thor. I remember doing that, and Dan over the mic was like, "Oh my god, what in the?" But I was bad, and I didn't know how to make my SCVs repair, so Dan eventually overcame the Thor. But it was pretty darn close, even just the Thor by itself, without recovering HP. So,
oh man,
the win that almost was.
Almost.
And he was playing Protoss too. He was getting annihilated.
I got decent at StarCraft 2, in the Gold League, almost in the Platinum.
yeah, that's as far as I've ever gone in the league is gold.
Nobody cares about your humble brag, Steve. We just want your second sin.
You were bragging about cheesing, so...
I was. It's
Okay,
over.
well...
The time has passed.
Okay. Alright, Dad. So, my second one I put down is abusing Missing No in Pokemon Red and Blue, like, so much to the point where your game is broken.
That is like the original sin of Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's like the original sin of gaming of our generation.
Isn't your Hall of Fame like forever broken once you do Missing No?
Depends.
If you catch it, all kinds of weird stuff happens. I've seen a range of things from like nothing happening to it like completely destroying your save file.
And then you like use like a rare candy on it or something, and you get like a level like 200 Kangaskhan or something. I don't remember exactly.
They called it the flying Kangaskhan because Missing No always knew fly.
Yeah.
Only it was like so broken that it knew like fly, sky attack, water gun. Like it knew the same move twice.
Yeah.
All weird stuff. And the last one I put down was if anybody who plays an MMO that has like Party Finder and queuing and stuff like FF14, I've joined Party Finders on phases that I'm not currently at, so that I could get better players to experience and learn like a phase early, which, once you get to the phase that they're practicing and you don't know it because you haven't been there, you're basically dead weight at that point. So it's kind of a really shady thing to do. And I've done that because if you join Party Finder on the phase that you're supposed to be learning, 9 times out of 10, the party can't even get to it.
Yeah.
So you don't get to learn the phase that you're on. So, yeah, I've done that. It's pretty scummy.
Makes sense to me. Get hard carried through something you need to learn. There you go.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to do it too, so...
I call it research.
You're not alone, Steve.
So I think Dan is easily the biggest sinner out of us 3. That's what I learned from this.
Wow, Dan, you're so bad.
It's terrible. His soul is black.
I'm a
He's
sinner.
going to go to the Shadow Realm.
On Easter.
Yeah.
The bunny's going to drag you kicking and screaming.
Shame.
No, Daddy, no!
You guys ready for news?
Yeah.
Bring it on.
For the most part, slow news cycle this week, and it's not just from me not reading. Sometimes I say that when I don't read news, but this week I actually did read news, and I just didn't really find too much compelling for the podcast. But there is perhaps a leaked, the article looked more like a leak than an announcement, Sonic Heroes remake on the Unreal 5 engine. And when I say Sonic games that need to be remade, you say not Sonic Heroes, I think.
I haven't played Heroes.
So we talked on the Conquer episode how like Sonic games started out up here, then they like completely crashed, and then like every once in a while there's a peak, but the peak is like, down here, right? This is one of those peaks. All right? Like it's not old Sonic. Don't go into it expecting that. It's still busted and weird, but it's better than like Sonic 06.
What is the best 3D Sonic they've had? Is that Adventure 2?
I think a lot of people would say Adventure 2, but I don't know. Sonic Frontiers, I hear, is like widely appreciated, so that might have taken it now.
For somebody that has played both of them a lot, my personal opinion is that Frontiers is slightly better, mainly because that feeling of freedom. In Sonic Adventure Battle 2, or Adventure 2 Battle, I'm sorry, excuse me, all of the Sonic and Shadow levels are very linear. And then you have the Knuckles and Rouge levels, which are like a treasure hunt style level, which the thing that you're trying to find moves around, so it's not the same every time, but the formula is like extremely like rigid. And then the last type of level you have is either Eggman or Tails, and it's like a straight linear path. So like you don't get a huge variety of exploration, and I think that Sonic Frontiers did it pretty good. And
But you
I
have
think
the,
that drives it over the top.
You have the what is it? They call chows, I think, the chow system.
Yeah, but it's pretty bare bones, honestly.
It always kind of was.
Yeah.
It's like a crappy Tamagotchi. Really crappy Tamagotchi. At least it was there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other thing I did notice about that article was that they said that Sega's in the process of moving many franchises over to the Unreal 5 engine. So I'm hoping that this is, maybe more news on the Power Surge thing that we saw at the turn of last year that we haven't heard anything about since. And I've been looking. Nothing really but rumors, right? So maybe this is the start of, Sega getting back into some of its older franchises. Hopefully giving them some more love.
That'd be cool.
I don't know enough about programming to tell you if Unreal 5 is going to move the needle on Sonic games or not, as far as their like brokenness. But
yeah, maybe not Sonic games, but I don't know if you guys heard of this series, the Yakuza series.
Yeah,
those would definitely benefit from that. And if you guys actually haven't played any of those games, the story in those games are actually really good. It's like a
I,
beat 'em up.
I
It's
hear
like
it
a
gets ridiculous though, right? Like doesn't it in like the later games venture into like the completely absurd?
so like the main story's serious, but all the side content is just like comical. Like that's just that they've always been like that formula wise, and it's like a beat 'em up, but with like RPG elements to it. It's very fun. I mean, I've probably there's like 11 Yakuza games out there. I think I've beaten 4 of them.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought there were only like 4.
Well, no, they have like spin-offs, and they're in the main series. They're up to 8, I think now.
Wow.
I don't know.
I haven't played any of them.
Highly recommend. They're actually really good.
The next little tidbit of news is Final Fantasy 16 PC version port is apparently going really well, and they're set to release a demo of it soon, which I think is great news for those of us who did not want to buy a PlayStation 5, which I think is only me in this room. But yeah, that gets me really excited. I will definitely buy it.
Yeah, everything's PC first for me. So, I mean, I do have a PS5, but I never bought 16. So, I mean that'll be welcome for me. I'll definitely download the
That
demo.
game is like a cross between like Game of Thrones and Dragon Ball Z. Like it's completely ridiculous.
The Bahamut ability where he's literally shooting a Kamehameha.
Yeah, I mean, not to spoil too much, but there's one point where like the people there are people, your main character included, who can turn into like the summons. They're like gods. And Titan, the Earth one that you probably know from other Final Fantasies, is like the size of the state of Texas. I'm not joking. Like you like fight the state of Texas in this game, and then like Bahamut's fight takes place in like space, and like knowing these people are that powerful, they're like kind of slaves almost, and like the kingdom that Bahamut is part of, the royalty just talks down to him so badly that he flips out, and I'm like, what did they think was going to happen? Like what? Like you didn't have a backup plan to deal with, the mean guy that comes out sometimes. Like, it's like mouthing off to Bruce Banner. You just don't, you just don't do it. It's a really bad idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I am excited for you to get to play it. I enjoyed it. And that's pretty exciting for the people. I know they've been waiting because it being an exclusive for the PS5, I knew a couple people that didn't have one, and they were like, oh, I can't wait for the PC port. I can't wait for the PC port. So it's pretty exciting for everybody that hasn't gotten to play it yet.
Oh, yeah, I'm really excited.
I liked it.
So are they like done with like turn-based, at least with the main titles? They haven't. The last one was like what, 10?
I don't know if they can ever say they're really like done, right?
I think they went to like other titles for it now. I feel like with like Octopath Traveler and Bravely Default.
So
yeah, in my opinion, I wish they would go back to a turn style, like ATB style system for Final Fantasy, and do all of your crazy stuff in different IPs. I don't want them to keep changing everything from an IP that I really enjoy from when I was younger. Like, they have plenty of IPs to do the crazy stuff they want to do with. That's just my opinion. I mean, it is a retro gaming podcast after all.
They're using the Final Fantasy name to get their game.
So I think Final Fantasy VII Remake, and this is going to be a hot take, but I feel like that system was kind of turn-based. Like, you have the regular attacks, but most of them are pretty inconsequential. And, like, you might consider... Because, like, enemies have special attacks, too. But enemies also just have, like, piddly little attacks that deal, like, no damage. And your regular attacks deal no damage. But where you get your damage are when your ATB goes up, and you can switch characters and use somebody's ability as their different ATB bars fill, which is how you're supposed to play the game.
Yeah,
so
no, I would agree with you.
It's kind of like turn-based plus.
It's like
keeping you busy, where, like, you can walk around and, like, juke the enemy attacks while you're waiting for your ATB to fill up. So
you can also block and counter, and it has action elements like that in it.
Yeah. I've seen some Tifa players go like absolutely nuts because I guess her kid is like set up for that. Seen like solo Bahamut and stuff. But yeah, anyway. Last bit of news is the PlayStation 5 Pro. I don't have any articles specifically to point to, but just that I guess some information was leaked about it. Maybe it'll be announced later this year. Maybe it'll launch in 2025. I have to admit, when I was looking at this, I was a little bit skeptical because I kind of was operating under the assumption that game consoles lifespans are really about 5 or 6 years, but these days they're more like 7. But the PlayStation 4 is turning 4 years old this year, and now we're getting a PlayStation 5 Pro with stronger graphics and everything else. I kind of wonder what for. Like, how long are we going to be talking about PlayStation 5 before the next one comes out?
I don't know. Maybe it's around for a while.
I hope so, because there isn't like I don't know. There are exclusives, and there are a lot of games you can play on it, but I feel like it's still kind of new.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because the availability was so low for a long time.
Still feels new to me, but that's because I get old fast.
Do we know what the Pro is? Like, is it just a stronger version of the PS5?
Yeah, but to my knowledge, the PS5 doesn't have a problem playing its own games, does it?
Maybe it's for future games. I don't know.
So there was some reports of PS5s overheating during certain cutscenes on FF16 on like the max graphical settings.
You don't say.
Yeah.
I think that game gave a lot of people epileptic seizures, but just too actiony.
Not only did it overheat some PS5s, it also overheated some people too.
It's an Iheart joke, get it? All right. So, that's all I had for news. You guys have anything else?
Nope, I don't think so.
I don't
Good.
think so.
Let's talk about Summon Night. How about now?
Much better.
All right, how about now? Can you see my wonderful... I meant to do this during the announcements, but we all have these wonderful The Cable Club podcast t-shirts on, which you can't see if you're an audio listener. But that's fine.
We also don't have a store that you can buy them
audio
at.
listener. Yeah, we don't have a store yet, but that's okay. I would argue we don't really have a logo yet, but we're working with this one. So
Right.
maybe someday when we have a store, we'll put these ones on sale as like a short print collector's item. You can have the original logo when we're all fancy and professional.
Eventually, when we are extremely popular, we'll wear the shirt for a week and we'll raffle them off without washing them for you guys.
If I get remotely popular before I die, that'll be like my life's achievement. I've been unpopular my whole life. I don't expect it to change now. So anyway, random encounter. This game was chosen randomly. Doesn't have any stakes attached to it because our viewers didn't pick it. So we're going to take it to task today across our 5 categories. And we're going to score it at the end in 2 ways. One, a numerical way yet to be determined. We'll determine it before the end of the episode somehow. But also a simple catch it or run away, which is our way of saying that you should play it or you should not play it. And, I think a general guideline for you, the listener, would be to go with the majority of us, since there are 3. So if 2 of us say catch it, you should play it. And if 2 of us say run away, you should probably run away, no matter what the third person says. But you do you.
Boo.
So our 5 categories are, of course, presentation, gameplay, pacing, playability, and title pending for this one still, X Factor. And we'll explain each category as we go. But first, an overview of Summon Night.
You want me to take it over?
Yeah, I can just keep going. So Summon Night is an action RPG that is deep in the library of the Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance is, for me, a magical console. that
Yeah.
is probably one of the best ever made, and has a library that, despite my love for it, occasionally even I still find things that are just, that I find to be crazy that are on this system, adding to its already robust library of titles that I think everybody knows. So Summon Night is an action RPG, and I'd say a pretty brief story where you play a main character whose father died like 3 years ago, saving the city slash island that they are on, which is the City of Swords, or I think the actual name of the island is Parista,
Yeah.
right? But Parista is also the name of like the god that lives under the island.
Yeah, wasn't there a town called like Western or something like that?
Oh yeah. It's Wistern. Wistern is the name of the town, or I know it as the City of Swords, which I think is way more epic.
Yeah,
Than
it
Wistern.
does sound. Yeah, it definitely sounds better.
So yeah, most of the story takes place on Wistern. Despite what the game says, Summon Night, it kind of sounds like you're going to be like creature battling and summoning things. You're not really. It's more about the Swordcraft story part of the title. You definitely do craft a lot of swords. So it's a tournament style story where you're going up against rivals, and there's some side stuff going on, a greater overarching plot. That's pretty much the long and short of it. Summon Night.
If
Came out in
anybody has,
2006. Yep.
yeah, if anybody has played a Tales game, the combat's very similar to that.
Yeah, it is.
Without further ado, I will get into presentation. So the art style, I just want to throw this in there before we start the greater discussion. So the art style comes from an artist that I'm going to butcher the name of. I'm actually trying to read it right now, so I try to butcher it less. But Shinichiro Utsaka. And
that's way off.
They are, I'm sure it is. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
This person will never do this podcast, but I'm sorry. They've done an awful lot of anime. I looked at their repertoire. I'm not a big enough anime watcher to tell you, but go look them up. I'd say the way I said it, Shinichiro Utsaka, is pretty phonetic, and we'll also have it in the show notes too. Maybe you'll find something out, extra treat for you. So that's where the art and character design comes from, which stuck out to me.
Yeah,
anyway.
Like the graphics kind of remind me of Chrono Trigger in a way. Like the overworld reminds me of like Chrono Trigger. And then I don't know, the battles, like your character kind of looks like it's like chibi.
Yeah, it's very, very like Tales of Destiny, the original on PlayStation. Like the character model looks like chibi like that. So
yeah,
it brought me back to playing that game as a kid.
And it looks like it like takes, in a time period where it's like kind of like steampunkish, where it's like, you're like a blacksmith and you're working, on swords and whatnot. And then you also got like a hoverboard that goes over water.
Yeah, the water bike is very strange.
But you don't.
The palette is just like dirt and poop. That is the palette of that first town.
Yeah.
You know what, the graphics like the palette makes me think of like RPG Maker bare bones basic.
It's brown is not a color in a game that should ever be used heavily.
Who tiles their city like that?
Yeah, it's used a lot actually. Like even in the dungeon.
It feels like it's like an industrial complex. Like a dirty like dock society,
Yeah.
You can nearly smell it through the GBA screen. Does that qualify as presentation? I don't like it.
Yeah. That's why I said it kind of looks steampunkish, because it's like it kind of looks like that. Yeah, there's no guns though. It's just straight up like swords, axes, spears, drills, hand-to-hand weapons.
And it's funny because I feel like the character designs are pretty flavorful, which is why I wanted to mention the artist, because like the characters are bright and vibrant and kind of colorful and have their own unique personalities and facial expressions and all that stuff. But just like the surrounding environment is like drab.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness that they did, because there's only like 15 characters. There's like
Yeah.
not a
15
lot.
characters, I think, is a lot for the way that this game is built, though. It's not like a sprawling RPG. You don't have like a massive map or anything, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
I just
Like Battle Network has like 6.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
your 4 kids, the teacher, and Wily. And that's
and
like
the bad
it.
guys, all of the villains,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
so.
their own net navies. Like, I don't know. You got 2 worlds of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that the visuals feel like really basic, except for the anime art style, like character portraits, and the in battle your character. But all of the enemies, like there were reused enemy assets, just different color schemes. I feel like some of that visual presentation in this game was pretty lazy.
I did feel like there was a good enough variety of enemies, though, where it's not a problem. It wasn't like a Streets of Rage or a Turtles in Time kind of problem,
No,
where there's
no.
like 8 colors of the same enemy. Usually, enemies had like 2 color palettes, like a
Slimes
weaker
had
one, a
at
stronger
least
one,
3.
Yeah.
and like they all had different moves too. Like
Yeah,
the
no,
later
as far
color
as, like,
palettes
the
had better moves.
Yeah, but the presentation, I don't know.
Yeah, aside from like slimes, I feel like the different color enemies didn't. I think it was like paced out pretty well. I remember there was like a dog type enemy, and I remember haven't seen like a different type of that till like near the end of the game. So, and then you run into the
It also takes you a long time to see the first dog, and he has a lot of HP. I remember the
Yeah.
first one that I
was like 1,000.
encountered being like, "Wow, that's a lot of health."
yeah, and he chunks too.
But there's
He hits ya.
there is a large variety of enemies, though.
Did you guys ever fight a red dragon?
Yes.
I only
Yep.
Yeah.
encountered one of them.
Yeah,
If your agility was high enough, you could just jump over it, and just like hit it from the back.
hit it from the back.
What did you
Like
guys?
that.
What are you, Donkey from Shrek?
But
Hitting the dragon from the back?
So the in battle, I feel like it looked way better because like when you were in the stadium, you could see the crowd, the background battle like pans as you move, and even in the dungeons where like all the floors are the same. Like I just feel like it really it worked a lot better.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, that part was good. How about the music? I am not a fan of the music in this game.
I would say like the best music that they used in this game was probably the battle music, but even then, I felt like to me it felt a little too NES sounding. I don't know if you guys got that vibe, but I sure did.
Yeah, it was very weak for what the GBA is capable of. Like you think about bangers, like some of the Battle Network songs, like there are. I keep going back to Mega Man, but he is some of the best in the biz. But there's like Pokemon on the GBA, like some of the best songs that we've gotten in gaming, have been reused since that GBA. This is not.
Yeah,
it's not that kind of game. And I feel like that overworld map, the loop is like 15 seconds, and it's the same friggin' loop. Like no matter
I'm
what
so
town
tired
you're in,
of that
really
town
bad.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm hearing it now. I'm hearing it now, and I beat this game on like Saturday, and I haven't played it since. I'm still hearing it. Six days later.
You're in that town for a while, so
for most of the game, the Brown Town. We'll call it Brown Town.
The Brown Town.
It's gonna take you to Brown Town.
Yeah, I mean, like just going on the music, like in the Mega Man, like Mega Man Legends 2, like battle theme. Oh, it's so good. Like there's nothing in this game that like even rivals that. So
there's not much that rivals that.
No. Oh, it's even good. Still though, it's just they definitely could have improved on music for sure.
Yeah,
it just makes it feel older for some reason. For something that came out in 2006, I kind of expected better.
Yeah,
from both
Isn't
visuals.
It the first game in its series?
No, Nope.
No, there's a
There
older
were Summon Night
Nights?
games before that, but the Swordcraft story is an offshoot that was created for the GBA.
Okay. I know they have a Summon Night 2. I wonder if the music is upgraded.
My understanding is that the sequel to this game is just like all around the one that people play. That it like if you ask someone if you should play one or the other, fans of the series will tell you the second one.
Well, that's good.
Gotcha.
It's
The
always
last
good
thing
to
that-
hear when sequels end up being better than the first.
Yeah, I agree. The last thing that I wanted to bring up in presentation personally was the translation. Did you guys? I saw a lot of translation issues, and because the game is like 100% text based, I think it falls in the presentation of the game. This, the way that it shows you the it gets information across.
So I didn't notice except for one part. There was one part where your kids get kidnapped on the island, and you go and you fight that like sea crab monster.
Yep.
Like that whole sequence when you like wash up on shore, get captured, and then they like make you fight the sea crab. There's like several pages of dialogue that are just gibberish. You're like they're just words that don't string together. It's not even like caveman speak. It's just like what is going on?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even remember that.
I mean,
maybe I was half
might have
asleep.
just skipped it, but
What about the part where it's like right near the end, you go and you talk to the old man, and he's like angry at you for no reason, and then all of a sudden he's not. It's like some kind of translation problem.
oh yeah, I
do
see
remember that.
But that's handled more tactfully than the situation that I'm
The old
that situation
wasn't
I'm
that
talking about.
one of the craft lords like Mondro or
Rondo?
something? Mondo,
Yeah,
yeah.
Rondo.
Well, he's
Mondo.
he's like the best of the craft lords. He's like
Yeah.
the big, yeah.
I remember
of
that.
Diamond.
I remember
Actually
that.
reminds me of Uncle Iroh from the Avatar series.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks a little bit like him. Fire Lord
Yeah, that-
Rondo is mad at you.
That was the only other presentation thing that I could
Yeah.
dredge up that was worth talking about.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I guess it does fall under presentation. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think just like to sum it up, I think we're all kind of in agreement that the presentation was probably a little bit drab, both visually and in an audio sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So gameplay then. Let's move on to that.
Hey,
So at the beginning of the
do you
game,
want-
you get a
do you-
summon or a guardian beast. I don't know if you guys know this because you never get another one throughout the game except for at the very end. There's like a whole thing, but there are 4 different ones that you get based on the questions you answer. Which one did you guys get?
So I got I don't even remember his name, but it's the mechanical one that looks like a shark.
Oh, me too. Zangtek, I think his name
Oh
is.
yeah, Zangtek. Yep. That's the one I got.
I got Sugar. She's like a fairy.
I know you. I knew you would.
Yeah, Steve got the jailbait fairy.
Yeah.
I don't know what
there's-
question I had.
There's the little mech guy that Dan and I got. There's the jailbait fairy. There's trying to think of the water one.
She's older than you. What do you mean jailbait?
You know what I mean. Look at her.
Anime.
You can also
everybody
get
looks young.
Ganondorf as your summon
Yeah,
knight.
the fire one.
Yeah, the fire.
Oh,
He's
I
like
want Ganondorf.
he's like legit like a big, like dude
So
with a horn and
I'm
red hair.
curious, Steve. Like, when you play through as Sugar, does she actually have like a conversation with you? Because I know with Zantek, he just speaks in like stars, and only the main character can actually understand him. I wonder if it was different for like another Guardian
No,
Beast.
Sugar can speak like regular plain words and have real conversations. In fact, she's like, "Oh, your dad Sentetsu said that I'm betrothed to you. Like we're gonna get married and stuff like that." And the main character's always like, "I don't want to talk about that," or like, "Oh, That's nice. You know, brush it off every single time.
Yeah.
I'll give you my power for your firstborn child. Yeah. Whatever you say. I don't have kids yet anyway.
Try to get after that scenario.
Oh boy. So, so they each represent different elements, right? So like I think, but they all get the elements later, I think, or at least Zangtek did, where like he started off
Sugar
with
had
just
hers
like
early.
electric, right?
Yeah.
But then later on, he got all the other ones, like he got fire, water, and wind.
Yeah, so from
later.
like what I gathered is it's like obviously they'll get like all the ones that they specialize in, like you'll get like more charges and whatnot, and then you'll also get the other elements, but like you won't get near as many charges as like one that actually uses that element or is like lined with that element.
Yeah,
I used mine as a healer. That's all she did with her points. She healed me and I beat stuff up.
you didn't use buffs.
No, I didn't need to. It was too easy.
Oh man, I thought the buffs were fantastic, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they were. I just didn't need them.
I like
well, you needed the heals.
the speed
so-
buff was good.
What? The speed
I don't-
buff? How about the defense and the attack?
Okay,
What do you mean the attack? Like you mean like the elemental one? Or
Yeah, well, first of all, the elemental. So anyway, let me back up. So your
Yeah.
summon beast is not like a Pokemon, despite what the title might lead you to think. It is a spellcraft. It's basically a spellcasting element to this game, right? So it hangs out off screen while you're fighting, and then you have like a menu of spells that you can equip to it. You can equip 4 at any given time, just for our listeners, right? And then in battle, you can scroll through the 4 that you have pre-equipped, and you can like launch them. And you get like 5 summons every fight. And yeah, it's basically just a way for you, just a device for you to cast spells. It doesn't actually like come and fight for you, or at least Zangtek didn't.
Yeah, no, Sugar didn't either. Yeah, she was wind, and yeah, she would learn stuff. You know, both of your characters level up after you fight stuff and get EXP.
Yeah.
And when they level up, they learn new spells at certain levels. I think it's all predetermined. But I think we were kind of getting a little off track with the gameplay.
I feel like this is all gameplay.
But,
Yeah.
well, talking about like the character development and stuff, I just felt maybe it was different. But
Oh well, I mean, you know, this is like one of the major gameplay elements, right? And I think for what it is, I think it's pretty unique. I was a little bit bummed, I think, playing through this game that I wasn't going to get more summon creatures. Like, I thought that was the point. I was deceived by the title, I guess.
Yeah.
But you don't. But that's okay, because you get so many spells that you can, like, kit it out to do different things. And I found myself using different spells at different times. Like, his Zangtek's electric spell was like this chain lightning that zipped all the way across the screen and hit for pretty decent damage. It's like if you found yourself against 4 enemies and 3 of them had low health, you could fire that thing off and just kill 3 enemies, you know, and make the fight go quicker, for instance.
Right. I found myself not really using the spells too much because of like I felt limited because you can only use 5 per battle, so like I was always apprehensive to always use it for like heals and stuff just in case I needed it.
it wasn't just per battle, though. It was in between healing.
Well, okay, so it's a little confusing.
Yeah, if you're dungeon crawling, then and you
Yeah.
don't find a heal
Yeah.
point, then you run out of charges.
Well, what I mean is you can use 5 per battle. Like, it doesn't matter like what spell it is, but like the actual spells themselves also have charges in addition to that.
Yeah. So if your spell has 1 charge because you just learned it, or it's like the big spell, you can't use that spell 5 times in one fight. You can only use it 1 time in one fight until you visit a point where you rest and heal your MP. But as far as these charges go for the audience, if you're familiar with like Final Fantasy 1 through like I think 3, right? They all have this charge system.
I think so.
Yeah, where like you have
Yeah.
like level 1 spells and you have a certain amount of level 1 charges.
Yeah, it's like preparing your spells in Dungeons and Dragons overnight for your next
Yeah.
day.
Right.
Yeah, kind of like that. And, you know, that's not really the biggest part of the game. It is kind of cool that we've talked this in depth about that system because I think it really does kind of speak to the depth of the gameplay in this. But, like, there's the other part of it is just, like, your regular attacks and combat weapons. So there's 5 different weapons. There's swords, axes, spears, knuckles, and drills.
What did you guys use?
I use drills, baby.
I used a sword, a drill, and a great axe.
I used a sword the whole way.
Dan. Oh. Just like one sword? You didn't use the switching weapons thing?
Well, I crafted a few. Like, I tested out all the weapons, obviously, in the beginning of the game, but nothing felt as good as the sword. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to stick with the sword.
All right, so in this game, you don't equip one weapon; you equip 3. So, like the whole fighting thing, there's durability with your weapons, so they can break, which sucks, but that's okay because before it breaks, you can just switch to another weapon, and durability heals up after the battle. What did you guys think of that? I felt like the durability healing up was like
it was a little weird,
kind of pointless.
It was a little weird. There was actually times where like my weapon broke, like in certain fights, because it would heal like after every battle, so like it was just kind of like an afterthought. And there would be times where like my sword broke because I just wasn't paying attention to it. And
Swords
then
have low durability, by the way.
they might, yeah, but
They do.
But you know what's good at like Zantac gets a lot of the charges of the what is it, the one when you cast it, it makes it so durability doesn't go down.
See, he did use the buffs. Look at.
And I actually had to use that for boss fights because like my weapon otherwise would break. But I was able to go through the whole game with just swords. I tried axes. Axes were too damn slow. I did not like how slow
they are. You're supposed to jump attack with them.
Yeah, I mean,
They also have a charge attack, but it's BS.
It wasn't my cup of tea. Spears were kind of cool. Like the jump attack with spears, or like if you pressed up while attacking, you did like a little spin thing with it while you were grounded.
Yeah, and if you press down and attack with a spear, you like stab diagonally up at enemies that jump at you.
Yeah, I mean that was cool. I used the spear for a little bit, but then I eventually went back to the sword. Hand to hand, I mean, was kind of like the sword, but like just shorter range.
I didn't make a single hand-to-hand weapon, but I have tried all the other ones.
I made every kind of weapon here and there, but I did not ever try a spear.
The very first weapon I actually did make was a drill. Before
I really like the drill. I like main to the drill for most of the game. So the combat is like from left to right, kind of like a Tails game, and it kind of feels a little fighting game-y, where like up is jump, and you have some other like button inputs, and you have a block. Like it's got that little bit of fighting game element to it, especially the boss fights.
The game doesn't tell you about that stuff either, I don't think, too. Like I remember like going through like the
Probably
first
an
dungeon
instruction manual thing,
and then like I remember like tapping up at one point, and then my characters just jumped in the air, and I'm like, oh, apparently you can jump. Same with like dashing too.
Let me put the pause button on that because we're going to discuss some things that don't get told to you during pacing for sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, one time I saw my first fight with like another person that wasn't a monster. They jumped, and I was like, oh, can I jump? How do I do that? And it's you're like 2 hours into the game at this point, and you fought many battles. Like
speaking of fighting other player characters, not player characters, but like monster characters, we haven't talked about weapon durability breaking. So when you fight other characters in like the tournament or in story development, you're almost always fighting other people except for soldiers of another nation that are also what are they called?
Craft Knights.
Craft Knights, yeah. Other Craft Knights. And the whole point is that, like, they make these weapons from the heart, and you're only good if you use weapons that you made with your Summon Knight your monster. And so, like, it's kind of like a bond that you have between you, your monster, and the weapon. If you break somebody's weapon, you get the plans to make their weapons.
Yeah, and somehow we've gotten this far into this discussion, and we haven't mentioned that, like, during this whole gaming experience, you are dungeon crawling for materials, and you're crafting stronger and stronger weapons as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to.
There's 172 plans total in this game.
I kind of want to go over what you said there, Don, with like the loot. I was actually not really a fan of just crafting your own weapons because, like, while I do like that aspect in a game, but like literally when you're going through like the labyrinth and whatnot, and then all the treasure boxes that you see throughout, you know, your escapade or whatever, it's just crafting materials that you break down. It's not that interesting. Where it's like, you know, you're exploring, and I want to. If I find a treasure box, I want some like armor or like a sword, because you know then it makes it worth it. But when you quickly find out when you go through this game, the treasure boxes are all just crafting materials.
I'd say
or
altogether,
or healing items.
Yeah, that like the equipment in this game was a little weak. Like, other than having 3 weapons to switch between at will in battle, which was pretty cool. Like, you only had the 1 gear slot, which I thought was like not great.
I don't know. It kind of decentralizes the exploration, because it's like you already know what's in these boxes.
You can praise the weapons all you want. In any Tales game, you can switch the character you're playing, and they have multiple different weapons that you can use because the characters use different weapons. It's just kind of lacking, in my opinion.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
The equipment and the like, just the entire experience of the equipment.
Yeah.
And can I say, holy shit, Lord have mercy, that encounter rate.
Oh yeah, I can't believe we went this far without like saying something about it.
Random encounters already kind of put a bug up my ass, right? But this was unbelievable.
Yeah,
this was like a parody. This is like every 3 steps.
It's bad.
You know what I thought
get
of?
into an encounter.
It is bad.
Anybody that's ever played Final Fantasy 1, there's this certain area in like each dungeon where every single step is a random encounter. They're supposed to be like trap pits almost, but they're not like marked. You just, every step is a random encounter. Just made me think of that.
Like the amount of lives you claim going through the dungeon would just like flood the entire city with gore.
Yeah,
like,
it would.
Yeah, you're the bad guy.
It's insane.
I felt like running too, like on the world map or whatever, like increased the encounter rate too. So I found myself like walking a lot of the time.
That's just malarkey.
I mean, it felt like it reduced it. I don't know for sure, but at least to me, it felt that way.
How many weapons did you guys end up breaking?
None.
Opponents.
So I actually only broke
you used
one.
The drill?
I broke one.
Oh wait, sorry. How many of my opponent's weapons did I break? All of them.
Wow.
Right.
That's impressive.
I did not KO anybody at all. Like,
you
they just
know,
kept blocking, and I was like, go ahead.
Yes. I broke every single weapon of my opponents. And let me just say, it is complete bullshit how many of those like soul stone things that you need to craft anything.
Oh, because in addition to the regular stuff, there's like 4 different materials that correspond to the elements, but there's the mystic ore, which I think is what you're talking about.
Oh. Yeah. So that's what they're used for, because I had like 50 by the end of the game, and I like never used them.
What?
Yeah, but
what
one weapon takes like
craft?
25.
Oh, because the swords never use it.
The swords don't
use it.
The swords don't break weapons. So I broke one weapon in the game, and it was against the first guy you go up in the tournament. I think his name was Chives or whatever.
Chops. He has like the Buster Blade.
Because if you guys remember, the first weapon I crafted was a drill, and I used it. And I broke his weapon, but
I broke it too.
And then actually when I used his sword, I was like, "This sword's broken."
You had to fight him with the knife.
I don't think so.
I didn't realize I could craft something else, and I fought him with the knife.
No, like I actually broke his weapon. I think it was with the drill, and I used his sword, and I thought it was broken. So I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go with swords for the whole game."
And like he like bodied me for most of the match, and like then his weapon just broke. Like he broke his weapon against my face because I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, oh, I guess I win.
It's like
I had like 3 health.
Yeah.
Anyway. No, so for the listeners that haven't played, the mystic ores are dropped only from a specific type of enemy in the one big dungeon underneath the city. And you don't encounter nearly enough of these things.
Yeah, it's kind of a rare
craft,
spawn.
Yeah, to craft more than like maybe 2. Like
wow, that's
Dan
crazy.
said he finished the game with like 50 of them. It takes like 20, 25.
I think I made the right decision.
I broke every weapon, and I got to craft literally 2 of them.
Sword all the way, baby.
So yeah, and like this gets a little bit into pacing because there are some things they don't tell you in the game. One of the major things they don't tell you, and I don't know if you guys found out, but did you look at your plans how they were like all odd numbered? You'd have like plan 1 sword, plan 3 sword. You're like, where's plan 2? And you'd go running around hunting for it. You wouldn't find it. That's because if you go and craft the same weapon twice, it'll ask you if you have enough mystic ore. Do you want to use mystic ore to craft this? Now, I thought that it's like, oh, save the rest of your materials and just use mystic ore to craft it. No. What it is it'll actually craft an upgraded version of the weapon you're trying to craft with an element attached to it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They don't tell you this anywhere. Like I found it in a guide later, looking for like where are all the even numbered plans? Like I had like plan number 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. I was like, what is going on here? I was like, I'm not this incompetent.
You mean
like,
I could have trashed the game harder?
Yeah.
Damn.
How odd.
Anyway, that actually leads us right into pacing, wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole like mystic ore thing, it really bugged me because I really just wanted to craft Urex's weapon when I got it, or like, any of my rivals. Like I just wanted their weapon. I wanted like to make something really powerful. It was not good.
Yeah, the progression on it felt linear, but like as far as the story goes, like the actual campaign goes, I have to kind of commend the game a little bit for its pacing because it only took me 11 hours to beat, which is not bad for an RPG. But I will say if you are a completionist or someone that just wants to be a little bit stronger throughout the story, you could slow down and go into that dungeon and grind for more materials if that's your jam. So it's kind of like a pick your own adventure with pacing.
Yeah,
plus, once the game is over, there's a 50-floor like extra dungeon with extra bosses and stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that those things kind of fall under the playability. Like, for pacing for me, the game, I feel like it got kind of boring near the middle.
Well,
I didn't feel incredibly invested until like late into the game.
Before like the middle part too, like how long like you actually have to go through the beginning before your first battle. Like
it is a long intro.
I swear to God, it was like 30 to 45 minutes of just talking before
and back and forth of like, oh, you can't go into the dungeon without a weapon. Go to the store and buy some ore, but hurry up, there's a sale. You get to the store, they're sold out.
That store is sold out forever. The whole game, there's no ore there. I'm surprised that my damn journeyman sent me there in the first place. It's as if the store doesn't even have any ore.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, I guess you're going into the dungeon without a weapon. You don't need a weapon. You just club things to death with your hammer. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
They're like, you don't have a weapon. Are you really going to go in? He's like, I'm going to use my hammer. And he's like, aw. I like your determination, kid. Go ahead. Don't get killed.
So, yeah. And, like, I think the game has kind of a humorous tilt. Like, I think some of the dialogue is actually pretty funny.
Yeah, some of it is.
Like, some of the characters are just like that guy at the gate. I found myself chuckling. Like, you going in there? You don't have a weapon? or like later on, like, well, my job is to guard this gate. But there's a gate around back.
that I'm not guarding.
I'm not guarding that gate, so...
I thought it was really strange how, like, Scenario was, like, bipolar, but they didn't explain it.
Well, it's kind of like Rondeau.
Yeah,
everyone's bipolar in this game.
Sometimes Beryl is, like, super, like, extreme Chaz. Like he's just like, and then sometimes he's just like extremely friendly. It's just like very strange.
Yeah.
And the whole story is that your character is an apprentice. Their father was this big famous craft knight who sealed this great evil down in the dungeon below by crafting these like super mighty swords, right? And and he died doing that, which was 3 years prior. And your character, and now because he died, there's a spot open in like the governing body of this town that are called the Craft Lords, and they're holding a tournament of all the apprentices to see who is the best to indoctrinate them into the Craft Lord cabinet, so to speak, right? So so that's kind of the main story, but then there's like other stuff going on where there's this like whole other army and they're trying to get at the demon underneath. And it's honestly, you did talk about the translation issues. Now now my gears are starting to turn because that army just like goes away. Like they're there until they're not. And it does feel like a loose end to the whole game, which
I
is
thought
weird.
the pacing on the tournament was kind of weird too.
Yeah. The
So,
semifinals dragged ass.
Yeah, so it's like you go through the
half the
first. Yeah, you go through like the first, like, what is it, like 5 fights, like in each game day, and then it gets put on hold for like the longest time for like no reason. It was like it's like
that's the part I was looking forward to the most too.
Yeah. I really started to get invested in like going to the tournaments and dishing out some pain.
Yeah, but it's like your main character takes a break from it, and he just ends up like going to various islands and whatnot to stop the soldiers or whatever.
And the funny part was like
the Craft Lords being crooked. Did you guys pick up on that? They were all presented as these like, well, I guess it's like our own government, right? So although we're doing much poorer than a 50-50 ratio, I think.
Another bone I want to pick with the Craft Lords too is like you're a craft knight in training, right? And then you're seemingly beating Craft Lords in one-on-one fights. And
like that Oreska guy, you just like wreck him the first time you fight him.
Right, and it's like that threw me off, like pacing wise. I'm like, I'm just like this apprentice, and this guy's a craft lord, not a craft knight, a craft lord.
See, I actually like that because by the time you go fight the second one, the guy with the mustache, I'm like, bring it! I beat your ninja friend. You want some too?
Yeah, it didn't resonate with me because it's like these craft lords are like that's like the end goal. Like you went, you're like like this strong ass dude, and then all of a sudden this apprentice comes up and just destroys them.
Right, but some
and
of them
how about
aren't
every
fighters.
time?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's part of the. You're supposed to be.
Well,
like that's part
one of
the
them is
deal.
in it for just profit. He says that like his whole shtick was crafting good weapons so he can sell them and make money, and he spits on you for trying to be a hero because he's like, how can you be a hero if your whole point is money? Like,
yeah, that's another one, a translation thing. Like the whole like, what does it mean to be a hero? Apparently, it means sacrificing yourself. That's a martyr. That's not a hero.
That whole sequence was like a little weird, right? Because who was that person on that island who was just like Goku, basically?
Yeah, the girl.
Yeah.
The other thing is they steal your thunder on like almost all of your big fights. Like, oh well, you weakened it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a stupid cop out.
I bodied that Craft Lord. You lost to him? Wow. Pratty is not impressed. Pratty was the name of the female main character, by the way.
Is that the one that you used?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went with Claru, I think his name was.
Yeah,
Pratty is not impressed.
Yeah, the pacing's kind of all over the place for me.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, you guys have kind of swayed me a little bit. I kind of like that you could spend as much or as little time as you wanted on the game, basically. But yeah, the story is kind of all over the place. All right.
Yeah.
Playability. So I just wanted to start by saying that in order to play this game, it is very hard to do it without emulating. It was originally released in Japan in 2003, came to the States in 2006. I'd say that Summon Night was a pretty, it is very long. but I'd say it's a pretty unknown franchise here in general. A cartridge of the first game will cost you around $100 to $140.
Ouch.
That's a loose cartridge, and the only listing I could find for a Wrap Factory sealed cartridge will cost you about $840.
Oof.
So it's a pricey one for the GBA, and you know what? Frankly, you're probably going to have to open that sucker up and replace the battery. So good luck with that. And there's not been any ports. I looked, no ports of this. It's GBA exclusive, which is kind of cool in a way.
Yeah, because
like a hidden gem.
I actually never heard of this series, so that explains a lot.
And that being said, I feel like ARPGs in general age better than other types of games.
Yeah, it can. I feel.
Maybe.
I think that's a case by case basis.
Well, like, tell me, other than like something that's super primitive on like the NES, but like, tell me an ARPG that hasn't aged well.
Yeah, I don't know if I can give you one
as a genre, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I can give you one off the shot of the hip, but yeah, I guess I could get where you're coming at.
I mean, you guys both beat this game, so I know you didn't like absolutely hate it. I'm not saying you loved it, but like,
no, you know. I didn't hate it. It was good enough to play through it for sure. But yeah, it was lacking in some areas.
Something about hitting something and have numbers pop out of it is like really appealing to me.
Dopamine hit.
It's like beating its brains in, but like numbers are popping out of its ears. You're just like, yeah, give me those numbers, bigger numbers.
Yeah. Well, that's
you get like skill points. I put all mine into attack, by the way. Steve knows how I play. I don't ever put defense in ever.
Yeah, I was like, for as far as that goes, like the stat allocation thing, that's kind of nice. You get to change the way that you play a little bit that way.
The stat weights were nice in this game.
Yeah, you get to change the weapons you use, so that's nice. You get to change the summon that you get in the beginning, which adds to playability. In fact, I think that playability is probably one of the best.
I would agree.
Best things about this game.
I kind of do want to go back and beat that dungeon. Like, I heard that the final boss is so difficult that it's like almost impossible to beat him without breaking at least one weapon, which is hard to imagine because like you get 5 spells, right? And I guess if you're good enough at dodging him, you could dedicate those 5 spells to durability, right?
Some attacks feel from like big enemies. I don't know what this like ultimate boss is like, but some attacks of like the last boss and some of the other bosses like the Kirin, they felt almost undodgeable, like a whole screen attacks. So you have to guard them, and you still take some damage and weapon damage. But for the most part, like little enemies, I learned how to dodge a bunch of stuff. But like big enemies, some of their attacks felt undodgeable.
I was dodging everything that the final boss had. I really didn't. I mean, I got hit a couple times, but as soon as I figured it out, I just was dodging him until he died.
Well, his HP was going down faster than mine, so I didn't really feel the need to dodge.
Yeah, no, he was disappointing. I feel
it's not dodgeable.
No, I was thinking the Kirin. He had like a fire attack that went across like the whole screen, and
he was just tough. But...
Yeah.
That actually was a pretty tough fight. In fact, the secret boss is a Kirin. It's gotcha. Called like Infernal Kirin or something like that. It's that boss. So I think they knew. They knew
reused asset.
It was tough though. I mean, Final Fantasy reuses assets all the time. You can't give it that much flack for it.
I'm just picking on it.
Chocobos have been in every game, despite them all being different universes.
And everybody loves them.
Yeah, I know they do. It's a reused asset, though.
But they need to go back to Wark instead of Queh.
Yeah, come on now.
That's so Queh.
So, I think we haven't really heard from Dan yet on playability, but I think Steve and I pretty much feel like it's a pretty playable game now.
Yeah, with like, definitely with the different weapons, I feel like, especially like with me, where like if you went through the game with like the sword only, and then you could like, say if you wanted to play like a new game, and then you can switch it up. You could also switch your character if you wanted to play male or female, or like the summon beast.
There's dialogue choices that appear to matter too. Like at the end of the game, you can choose to literally go save your friend or not.
Yeah,
it seems like.
So the first time I picked no, they kind of rerouted me again to ask again, and then I said yes. Like, I felt like the choice there didn't actually matter at the end.
I wonder if they do. Like, if you
maybe
say
it
no
doesn't.
again.
I mean, I said yes, so I don't know.
Because
I wanted to do the tournament.
Because there's a part of the game.
Me too. I wanted to go kick that little jerk's ass.
There's a point in the game where his name's
Feral?
Nigel,
Yeah.
where he
Nigel?
wants you to make swords. Do you guys remember
10
that part?
swords.
So not only did I make him his swords and sell them to him, I beat him up after to get the swords back.
Oh, really? So I said yes to making his swords, but then I think it was Scenario that said, "Oh, why would you do that?" And then I was like, "Maybe you're right." And then I went back to Nigel and said, "Yeah, never mind. I'm not doing it."
That's what happened to me.
No, I actually sold them to him. I told Scenario to stuff it, and that's none of your business. I sold him the swords for 5,000, and then when she came back, spouting off, I was like, "Yeah, let's go beat him up and get my swords back. I want those mats."
Yeah, you want the money? The money doesn't do anything in this game.
Yeah. That was kind of a letdown because there's such a lack of gear that the money doesn't matter.
You know what the money is used for? Is buying those goddamn amulets.
Yeah, the amulets that lower the encounter rate.
Yeah.
Repels.
Oh boy. All right, playable, fine.
Fine.
X Factor. Let's get on our stumps now. So X Factor is the category where each of us get to kind of talk about what we want to talk about with this game, good or bad. Don't really have to obey any rules here. Generally centered around something that makes this game unique. Who wants to go first? I don't.
I'll go first, I guess. So, I guess the battle system, it's not the first of its kind. It was pretty unique for a GBA title. I don't really think you saw a side-scrolling, fighter essentially in that style. So I thought that was pretty neat. I did like the different types of weapons that you could grab. I didn't actually end up using them, but I end up using the sword mostly. But I do like the fact that there's different weapons for you to try out, and I thought breaking the weapons and being able to use them was a nice touch. And I didn't take full use of that mechanic because I didn't know swords were god awful at breaking it because I only broke one weapon and it was with the beginning drill.
Yeah, they attack the fastest. They do good damage, but they have low durability, and they don't do a lot of durability damage.
Yeah. But, I don't know. I mean, for me, the game was pretty average. The story, the pacing was a little off. I didn't like the power scaling in the game too much. I don't know. There's something about, an apprentice beating up a craft lord is just... that doesn't resonate with me. But, I don't know. It was pretty mid, I feel like. I guess that those are my 2 cents.
So, do we want to say how many weapons out of 5? Because there's 5 weapons. Is that how we want to do our little thing?
I figure. Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. After we've concluded this, we'll give that with our final verdict when we go to catch or run away.
Yeah.
I think as far as X Factor goes, I have to say that when I finished this game, I almost wanted to turn around and start a new file because I felt like there were so many choices. It just was I could go pick different choices at the beginning of the game and get a whole different summon beast and have a whole different experience. And I could go and just see a different character every night to get different dialogues. I mainly stuck with Sanary and
yeah, me too. I was trying to get it in.
Barrick. Yeah, I want to see some bratty Santa reaction.
E for everyone.
There is no romance in this game, by the way.
Buddy.
Although the writer for this game, I guess, went on to another project. The name is escaping me right now, but that has a Summon Night type of tilt to it, but a larger focus on romance. So I guess somebody's head was in the right place. But yeah, I don't know. The crafting thing was a very linear way to upgrade yourself, as it turns out.
Yeah,
But was such
pretty dookie.
kind of a But like the fact that you were crafting and getting materials to do it and kind of picking different weapons at different stages, it kind of felt to me like it was distracting enough to kind of get my mind out of that, like, or like made me kind of overlook it. Um, and I am really curious about crafting elemental weapons because I didn't do any of that. But like, I think it is really fascinating how you can spend 11 hours on this game beating it, or you could spend, and most people seem to estimate about 40 hours. 100%.
That's crazy.
It.
Wow.
Yeah, 100%ing it, getting all the blueprints.
You have to
Grind.
farm so
Yeah.
much. Like 20 hours of grinding? That sounds pretty terrible.
And there are side quests and stuff to get some hidden blueprints as well. So it is pretty interesting. Interesting. I don't know if that makes it good, but definitely makes it niche.
Yeah. I mean, as far as X Factor goes, like, my favorite thing was the amount of choices that you got in the game in general. Like, you get to pick the weapons you use, you get to pick the characters you talk to at each night, like as a day and night cycle, like 12 days or whatever. You get to talk to whoever you want, and kind of, you get to see a lot of different parts of the game if you decide to replay it. Like I had said earlier, the replayability of the game is probably its best feature. And then it has, additional content at the end there. I didn't get to any of that, but it seems good. But I mean, there are a lot of things with the game that I felt weren't up to my RPG standards, but some of them were. And I don't know. The crafting system, like Don was saying, I'm on the opposite end. It didn't feel distracting enough for me. It felt really watered down for me. Like, all of your treasure goes to crafting materials, and like, crafting new weapons, like, are strict upgrades. Like, you never would want, like, two different, unless you're crafting maybe elemental, but that didn't come into play for me, like, at all, because all the elemental weapons took mystic ore, which I couldn't get enough of unless I spent more time just grinding materials.
Yeah.
That's just not fun for me. I mean, the battles are fun, but not fun enough to literally grind.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's get into our final verdict. Okay. So I think, like Steve said, I think we're going to go on a scale of 5 because there's 5 different weapons. We also could have gone on a scale of 4 because there's 4 different summon beasts, but I feel like 5. Or should we go on a scale of 172 because there's 172 techniques in the game to get? I don't know.
I think 5 weapons is good.
2.
You're going with 2, huh?
2. Dose.
Can I do a half, like 2.5?
No, you picked 5. I gave you an opportunity for a narrow scale, 172. You could have picked everything in between.
Right, well,
now you're stuck with 5, man.
No way. No way in hell is this game of 5. I'm going to go with 2.
Yeah, I am also, unsurprisingly, going with a 2 out of 5 weapons.
Yeah, and
I think it's a runaway.
Like
I'd say for me that probably makes it a runaway.
Yeah, like, they had some good ideas, but, like, they needed to add variety, especially with, like, the dungeon loot. It's not really fun to explore in this game. So I'm also going to run away. Maybe the second one's better. I don't know. Maybe they expanded on it.
I've heard it was better, too.
And that is what we think of it. I'm going to pause here for a second while I find the YouTube poll. Okay. That is what we think of it, but we asked the community in a YouTube poll what they thought of it. So we had a few votes. We had 14% of the votes say, yes, it's a great game. We had 43% of the votes say it's mid, fine but forgettable. I'd say mostly on line with what we're thinking, but we're a little bit negative. What did you say, Steve? A 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all in line with 2. and it's bad. Stay away from this one. And then was also 14% of the vote, and then 29%, the remaining 29% had never played Summon Night, which I'm a little surprised at that. I thought the number of people that had not played it would be higher.
Yeah, I thought so too. Maybe, I don't know, maybe people are playing the games we're picking. That'd be
Yeah,
cool
maybe.
to see.
Maybe. It's pretty neat. I will say that, although I'm saying officially for myself that I would not recommend it to somebody else, run away. Just go play the second one, apparently. Or I'd say I heard the second one is better. I still kind of had a pretty decent time with it. I kind of breezed through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of, for me, it held a little bit of that GBA magic, where like GBA had this ingenious way of having games that weren't that long on a campaign, but you could spend hours and hours diving into, a la Battle Network, right? Just games like that, and that just felt really good. This
Yeah.
this past week for me.
Yeah, no, I think the game's like mid. Like it's neither like good nor terrible. So I mean, like if you're looking to play it, I would say it's okay to play if you, especially if you're in RPG story. It definitely can scratch that itch, but it's not amazing.
And I'd
Yeah,
also say, oh, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
the redeeming part about it all is even though it's not like extremely good or it's not really all that interesting, it's short enough to beat where like you could just go through it if you are looking for something you haven't played before, because I hadn't even heard of it. But I think that you're going to get a better experience with like a Tales game, and there's like probably 20 of those. So
There's so many good games on the GBA in general too. Like it's just hard to stack this one up against that library.
Right.
I think.
Yeah,
I
I
played a
agree.
lot of them. So this was one I hadn't played, which was nice. But
aren't you guys glad you agreed to do this podcast with me? You get to play all these games you never would have played otherwise.
I know, it's crazy. I've played so many games I probably wouldn't have played.
and so can't our listeners.
Great. Yeah, so if you're listening and you want to write in comments about any of these games, don't feel like you're restricted to just the YouTube poll. That's just to kind of prompt people to try to get some comments for the show. But honestly, as much as this is our show, it's also yours. We'd love to hear your comments and actually read them on the show, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So yeah, feel free to write in. This is really what we all make of it. But we're going to set aside Summon Night Swordcraft story, and we are going to pick the games for our next episode, which is going to be a Colosseum, which we also did a YouTube poll for. And if you're scratching your head wondering, YouTube poll, where do I find those? Head over to our YouTube page and go to community. They also will be in Discord really, really soon. That's what we're going to use our Discord hub for. So this Colosseum episode had a tie between a couple games, and we did a tiebreaker. And we came up with the next Colosseum episode will be two fighting games, which were the only two fighting games in the poll.
Fight!
Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers, that's the one with Cammy, versus Mortal Kombat 3, the best of the original trilogy, I hear.
That'll be a good one.
That's exciting. I'm excited to play as Liu Kang and Bicycle King.
We definitely have to get together and fight each other in these games. You know that, right? Like this is going to be a typical run where like we're going to just play on our own.
Right.
You can practice on your own, but we got to get together and beat the hell out of each other for one night for gameplay.
I had a pretty mean Sub-Zero back in the day. You guys are in trouble.
Well, I guess I'm the Street Fighter fan, huh? All right.
I haven't spent a lot of time playing fighting games other than Smash in my day, so you guys will probably destroy me, but I'll see if I can get some practice in and put up a fight.
Yeah, no, this should be good. And you, audience, joining our Discord, hit us up for a game we can play each other too. In these, we'll show you how to get your retro arc set up with your net play, and we'll fight each other in these games. It'll be a good time.
For sure.
Heck yeah.
All right. So, with that, I just wanted to thank everyone who came to listen. I wanted to thank our subscribers, all 51 of you, I think, as of this episode. And that's great. We've hit our sub goal, and we're going to put out a bonus episode for you. Keep an eye out for us if you don't like listening to us here on YouTube. If you are listening to us on YouTube, you can find us anywhere you can find podcasts now. We are on Spotify, Audible. Help me out, guys. Where else
Iheart
are we?
Radio, Amazon Music,
Apple Podcast,
yeah.
the big one, the one for which is named after. Yeah. And or hop into our Discord and become part of the community. If you want to write us in for comments, you can get us at thecableclub@gmail.com still. All the usual channels are still open. This is a pretty small community. We don't need to be sorting people into buckets. But anything else to add, fellas?
Yeah, all of the links should be available on the description in YouTube.
Yep, they will be. Discord will actually be a new one starting with this video, so look forward to that.
Down there. And it'll also be added to the description of the episodes on the various platforms too, so you can get there no matter how you are listening. Game over.
And just send a like and subscribe. Yeah, we didn't say that.
Oh yeah. I didn't say like and subscribe and talk about all the content creators that I watch that I probably forget to hit the like button on. And don't be me and hit the like button on us, please, if you made it this far.
We appreciate all of you.
Absolutely.
All right, Don, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. Game over.
Game over.
Game over.
Die, monster. You don't belong in this world.